Hi, my name is Ava, and today we are going to be dismantling stereotypes in Girl Interrupted. This film is based on a novel and it follows the true story of Susanna Kaysen, who, after an attempted suicide, finds herself at Claymore, a mental institution for troubled young women. The movie depicts her relationships within the institution and her choice between, quote, succumbing to her illness or getting better and leaving Claymore. This movie was released in 1999 and is set in the late 1960s. For the portrayal of disability of our main character, Susanna Kaysen, she is diagnosed with borderline personality disorder upon entering Claymore. Some of the general characteristics, according to the National Health Institute, are intense mood swings, feelings of uncertainty about oneself, patterns of unstable relationships, impulsive behavior, self-harming behavior, and suicidal thoughts. Some of these symptoms are depicted realistically through Susanna in the movie, such as the suicidal thoughts, which she consistently has throughout the film. It also opens with her attempted suicide. Also, the impulsive behavior, it is found that she was having an affair with her teacher, and that is alluded to one of the reasons for her attempted suicide. Some of the aspects that are not as accurate or can be considered stereotypical, the film suggests consistently that she does not actually have the disorder, that it is her fault, that she's bringing the symptoms upon herself, and she doesn't really belong there, and she's not, quote, crazy. And the use of the word crazy throughout the film is harmful. The fact that they view it as a curable disease. Borderline personality disorder is a chronic condition and not something that needs to be cured within a year, as depicted in the film. Also, there's a biased narrative that it is more common in women. This is mentioned in the film, and this was dispelled by Skidol and Bender, who found that the research saying that it is more common in women was more due to a biased sampling of participants rather than an actual conclusion. Another disability that is portrayed in the movie is through Lisa Rowe, who is portrayed as having antisocial personality disorder. Some of the general characteristics, according to the Mayo Clinic, are ignoring right and wrong, manipulating others for personal gain, having a sense of superiority, being hostile and aggressive, feeling no guilt about harming others. And these are portrayed in her character, and they are accurately reflected, but they are kind of an exaggerated version. She's a very kind of extreme case of all of these symptoms. And I think it's not really realistic, her complete inability to live a normal life. For the psychosocial stigma, we see the model of isolation that is portrayed in the media, the stereotypical that someone with a disability needs to be isolated from society. We see this through the mental institution that the women are confined to, and also seeing disability as a sickness, something to be fixed or cured, which is mentioned by Block as something that is a stigma in the media. We also see the discourse of pity through this film, the confinement, hope for rehabilitation, denial of rehabilitation, and reconciliation of confinement. We see two different versions. So Susanna, the main character, is able to get better and leave confinement. And Lisa is denied rehabilitation and must continue in confinement. Her disability is too great. She can't overcome it, essentially. And this leaves us feeling pity for Lisa, whereas Susanna, it gives us a happy ending. We find ourselves hopeful for her. But this is a very surface level kind of idea of mental health and what it's like to live with a emotional or behavioral disability. Susanna also is a great example of what Longmore calls a maladjusted disabled person in that trope in media. And basically, this trope follows that a non-disabled character will give the person with a disability an emotional slap in the face and tell them that they need to stop feeling sorry for themselves, and then the character with a disability will quit complaining and become a well-adjusted adult. This is what happens in this film. In the last 20 minutes of the film, Susanna basically comes to and realizes she shouldn't be there and gets better. And then she has hope for a better life, whereas Lisa is kind of stuck there forever. And we pity her. And she's viewed as a person who's a menace to society, a person with a disability who cannot be in society. I think it's harmful, the negative portrayal of people with emotional or behavioral disorders. They're kind of viewed as not being able to hold meaningful relationships except with each other. It also evokes fear of living with an emotional or behavioral disability because there's such extreme cases. There's women wandering around the mental hospital or the institution kind of screaming and banging on things, and it's just this very extreme and stereotypical view. It also doesn't show the full complexities of living with a chronic mental health condition. And the harmful narrative of the only way of getting better is to be cured, and cured fast is really harmful. I think because this is also a true story, obviously dramatized, I think that can make these effects even more prolific because people are like, this is a true depiction. where it's really not. It's based on a true story, but it is exaggerated. And there are some positive moments of joy within the women, and it shows that it's not all negative living with an emotional behavioral disability, but overall, I think it's a harmful movie. And I think this furthered my ideas about the complexity of mental health. I think we're just starting to open up conversations about mental health, so I'm not surprised that it was more stigmatized and that this media showed a stereotypical version of mental health. I think it's disheartening that it kind of makes people afraid to be around people with emotional and behavioral disabilities or become like that because it's so extreme and frightening. So as an educator, I think it's important to examine our personal biases that might be created through media like this around people with an emotional or behavioral disability and enter into relationships with empathy rather than